back to my channel. It's Ashley here. This week I'm going to be doing a week in my life while I do reading for the Historical Romance Readathon, which I'm very excited about. The Historical Romance Readathon is hosted here on YouTube by creators Jessica from Peace Love Books, Lacey from Lacey Book Lovers, and Lisa from Remarkably Lisa. Last year in 2020, I read my first historical romance ever. I had started seeking out historical romance after watching Jessica's channel and watching Pride and Prejudice, the movie, for the first time. So I really wanted to delve more into that because I realized how much I enjoyed it. I don't think before 2020 I ever had interest in period pieces of any kind, historical romance of any kind, just because historical romance I associated more with older women doing reading, and the covers and concepts before when they were explained seemed very cheesy to me. But I ended up picking up Pride and Prejudice, and then I later picked up a Tessa Dare book based off of recommendations from Jessica, and I really, really enjoyed it. I definitely think that historical romance gets a bad rep, but they're so fun, they're so enjoyable. A lot of them have really good steamy scenes if that's something that you're into, and they're also just a very nice window for someone like me who isn't great at history but enjoys learning about time periods and periods in time. So I definitely am looking forward to this readathon. Other than doing the readathon, I have a couple of errands to run, and I'm doing prep for starting back into school because I'm entering my last semester of my graduate program. So this might be one of the last times that I'm gonna be able to read a lot in one sitting. I've already read 6 books this month, but I have 4 that I would love to get to this week. And if I get through those 4, maybe a couple of others that I have out on loan at the library right now. I'm going to be doing the bingo chart that was provided by the girls. So I'm doing Recommended to You, Blue on the cover, Shirtless Man on the cover / Step Back, and a used book. Other than one book which I purchased through Libro FM on audiobook, all my books that I'm getting are through the library, whether I'm reading them on Kindle or in audiobook format. So for used book in particular, I chose Devil's Daughter by Lisa Kleypas. And I chose a book by Lisa just because I had read something by her in 2020 and I absolutely hated it. But she's definitely one of the names that comes up the most in terms of historical romance authors to try, or who have almost a lock on the writing genre. So I definitely wanted to give her another shot and see if there's something in her backlist that I really enjoyed, because I know she's done a lot of writing and she's definitely a name in historical romance that people genuinely love. So I want to find a book for me that she might have in her backlist. For Shirtless Man on the cover / Step Back, I'm going to be reading Her Night with the Duke by Diana Quincy. Diana Quincy is another author who I feel I've heard her name a lot in terms of historical romance, and she's definitely someone I wanted to read from eventually. But then I fell across this book and it just seemed the perfect level of messy romance drama back in the day. So essentially she has a one night stand with this man who she doesn't really know because she's a widow. And then the following day, after returning home, she finds out that the man that she slept with is a duke and that he's betrothed to her stepdaughter. So I thought that was crazy, just a little messy, and it will be very interesting to see where their relationship goes and how their relationship will develop. I definitely think that out of all the books that I chose, this one is probably the one that I'm either gonna the most or the least, just because I feel it's gonna bring very visceral emotions about it, where that means I'm complaining or gushing. I definitely think this is a book that will probably be either a 1-star or a 5-star. Then the next book I'm reading, I'm the most excited about. It's Blue on the cover, and for this one I'm going to be reading The Madness of Lord Ian Mackenzie by Jennifer Ashley. It's the first book in the Mackenzie and McBride series, but this book, I think out of everything I've heard on like BookTube in terms of historical romance is the one that has piqued my interest the most. So as soon as I heard that the historical romance readathon was happening like this month, I knew that I had to read it no matter what. So this book in particular is so interesting to me because while I'm reading it for blue on the cover, it has the damaged hero trope, which I've definitely learned that I really, really enjoy, which isn't surprising to me because I do tend to read a lot of books with like characters, whether it's like male, female, non-binary, etc., who they in specific like have had like a hard like background, rough upbringing, what have you, and it's really affected how they like developed or how they interact with others, because I think that's something that's like genuinely realistic. But I just love a soft boy who thinks he's not soft because his life has him feeling a little messed up. And it seems like this would be this book. And then in particular, on top of that, this book apparently, Ian Mackenzie has been in an asylum for a really long time, and he's nicknamed Mad Mackenzie because of being in an asylum. But Jennifer Ashley said that the reason that he was actually in the asylum is because he is on the autism spectrum and he has Asperger's, which I think is like super, super interesting, because a lot of the time we hear like all these like labels and diagnoses that people have, and we're still barely like understanding them, but it's something that has been around in existence for like centuries and centuries a lot of the time. So being able to see how like his like Asperger's has affected his life in that way in a time period where like people did not receive help for any like disorders, conditions, mental illnesses that they had, but instead were like put in an asylum or like left to die, is like super interesting to me. I am probably going to be devastated if I don't enjoy this book, just because like I've definitely hyped it up in my head. I think I've only heard about this book for like maybe 3 like booktubers who like do read like romance and read like historical romance in particular. But like every time I heard about it, I was so interested. So now that I have my hands on it, I will probably cry if I don't enjoy it. So I have high hopes, and I'm trying to like manage my expectations about it, but I'm very excited. Then the last book I'm going to be reading for sure is recommended to you. I'm going to be reading Forbidden by Beverly Jenkins for this one. Like Lisa Kleypas, I think she's like a very well-known name in terms of historical romance, and because of everything that's happened in like 2020, she has definitely been like pushed to the forefront of like household names for historical romance. I think that Beverly Jenkins in particular is interesting to me because it's like most of her books, if not all of them, are set in America specifically. I'm from America, but I do see that so far with the books I've read, all of them tend to be in like England and Europe. So it'd be interesting to get like a historical romance perspective from like an author who writes like primarily in America. I think like Beverly Jenkins' writing is also going to be like really fun to read, just because a lot of them do like center race into them, which I know like I think a majority of the books that I've read in historical romance are all straight white characters. I've read 2 in 2020 that had some people of color, and one of them in particular like had a person of color and also had some women and men who were LGBTQ plus. So I definitely am like looking forward to this one, because I definitely see that like any type of diversity isn't really present in historical romance, and that is something that like historical romance authors and like just historical romance authors are pushing away from, as well as like historical romance readers are pushing away from. So I definitely think that will be like super interesting to read. Like I said before, I'm not a great like history person. So between all of these, I think that it'll be like really interesting to find out for me what I like in historical romance and what I might like in historical fiction, which is something that I definitely want to start reading more of in 2021. Otherwise, today I'm going to be running a couple of errands. I have to go to Michael's because I'm doing a bunch of craft stuff. I do cross stitch, and I make like ornaments and stuff like that. And this month in particular, I'm working on a cross stitch project for myself and another one that I want to give to my friend. So I have to go pick up some stuff for that. I also have to pick up some stuff for snail mail. And in this week in particular, I'm getting a bunch of stuff together for my last semester of graduate school because I'll be starting soon. So it's pretty much going through my life, reading all these books and figuring out how I can like manage all of them. So excited. I'm going to be linking Jessica, Lisa, and Lacey's channel all down below. So if this is something you're interested in, or if you're just interested in historical romance in general, like moving forward, this is something that you can like do, and I definitely suggest it because it's been so fun in 2020, and I'm definitely looking forward to it in 2021. So I'll see you guys later. I'm gonna do like a little bit of vlogging. I'm gonna start with either Forbidden or Ian Mackenzie's book. It's like a quick little OOTD because I never leave my house anymore. But basically I'm wearing these Big Bud Press pants. This is the forest green color, I'm pretty sure, but in the pencil pants. Like a Paranorman shirt. I got it off of Hot Topic, but I'm pretty sure you can get it off of Leica Studio still. And then like this old like Urban Outfitters cardigan I have. But like these pants are amazing. They're a little expensive because they're like ethically and sustainably made, but they fit super well while still having a bunch of extra space and have like this huge pocket, which is like unheard of in women's clothing. But I'm gonna go to Michael's, pick up some stuff, and start Lord Ian Mackenzie's book. Bye. Hey guys, I'm checking in for the first third of the book. I went to Michael's, bought a bunch of stuff and was organizing it. And I've been listening to The Madness of Sir Ian Mackenzie for a couple of hours now. And I'm super into it. The first, like, I want to say, like, chapter or two, I thought it was going to be, like, very insta-lovey. So I'm, like, so excited it didn't go down that route. For me, personally, I think insta-love is, like, very unrealistic. So I never enjoy reading it, and I thought that was gonna like ruin my like reading experience with this book, especially because I was like so excited for it, so I didn't want that to happen. But Jennifer Ashley like handled it very well and wrote away from that, so now the characters are definitely like at the point where they're still attracted to one another, but they're not rushing into anything. I thought that it could have gone down like almost like a marriage of convenience, because Ian has like shared with Beth that he thinks that he can't experience love, that he'll never be able to give somebody love, but he wouldn't mind marrying her because he like thinks that she deserves it. And when they originally meet, she has like a fiance, but he's kind of like a horrible guy. And she thinks that like her first husband, because she's a widow, like was the love of her life, and she basically just wants to settle down again and like reintegrate into society. So I thought we were gonna get a marriage of convenience for a second, which I'm very into marriage of convenience for some reason, but I think it's more so the fact that you get like that slow burn as they get to know one another. But it's been going very well. Both of them are like very established characters so far, and I've been enjoying getting to know both of them and seeing how they interact with one another, especially knowing that like it's the 1880s and people just don't understand autism. They don't understand like why Ian's acting the way he is, but Beth like definitely takes it in strides. Some of it because she's just like lusting after him, but some of it is her seeing past like all of these like weird tendencies he has, quote unquote, and like actually seeing him as a person. At one point in the book she says that some people see him as a lord, some people say that he's a madman, but she just sees him as Ian, and it's just been so cute. I'm losing my mind. It's almost time for like the live stream, so I'm gonna try to do some more reading during that. And I'll check in with you guys later, maybe around the 60-page mark or 60% mark. Hey guys, so I'm just checking in for like the last bit of the book that I read. I did go to the live show and it was really, really fun. I got a good chunk of reading done during it and I finished like all the organization stuff I wanted to do. And now I'm about 60% into the book and it's a little after 10. I'm so into it so far. As much as I was excited about the book, I was really worried about like the representation of autism in it. But it's very reminiscent of like the students I work with. I'm an educator and I've worked a lot with students K through like 3 years old. And I've also worked with middle school and now I'm working with high school, and I definitely see it in like students I've like worked with before. And I think it's like very well done in that manner. Nothing's like too over the top. It's very like personalized to like the 1880s, even his like hobbies that he's really interested in. It's really well done. I am super enjoying like the relationship between Ian and Beth. It's just like so great. He's so protective of her, she's so protective of him. Both of them don't like understand each other all the time, which is so like normal. Like it has nothing to do with like Ian's Asperger's, but it's so normal because they have just gotten to know each other. And I just love that about them, because I feel like a lot of time in romance in general, doesn't matter what like subgenre of romance, people tend to act like, oh well, we've known each other for like the last month and like I know everything about this person, which just isn't genuine. That doesn't happen. Like I feel like no matter how long you've been in a relationship, you're still constantly learning about your like partner, because they're continuing to grow as a person and they're continuing to have life experiences, so there's always something new to like learn. There's always a different story, like, but they're definitely not like that. I think that almost it gets enhanced by the fact that both of them haven't been like knowing one another for a long period of time. The fact that she doesn't understand this like aristocratic lifestyle because of her past. The fact that he doesn't understand like society's like rules either because he has Asperger's. And it's just like so well done, so fun, and just genuinely so sweet. I'm really enjoying it. I want to stop here, but honestly, I feel like there's a good chance I'm just gonna like wake up at like 2 in the morning and be like, well, clearly this is because I have to finish the book. So we'll see how that goes. There's a good chance I'll just check in tomorrow morning and be like, so I finished it, and I was crying. Good morning, guys. Like I predicted last night, I ended up listening to the last third of The Madness of Lord Ian Mackenzie, and I really, really enjoyed it. I was worried that towards the end of the book, Jennifer Ashley might start almost like negating all of these personality traits and characteristics that Ian had to make him seem less autistic, when like autism is something that like people live with their entire lives. That's just how they are. So I was worried that that was going to happen, so it would make the love story a little bit easier, quote unquote. But she really continued to lean into all of the facts that she had like laid down before, all of these like characteristic traits that she had set out for Ian, and I really, really enjoyed it because he was able to get his like love story and still be who he was. So it was like really great. This morning, I genuinely enjoyed it so much that this morning I woke up and listened to the last 2 chapters again because I just enjoyed it so much last night. I'm glad I didn't end up recording last night too because I straight up just like started sobbing. I love the book that much. So it was like a big deal for me because I'm not a rereader. I won't buy books unless I know that I'm absolutely going to love them because I just like to move forward in what the writing like world has to offer me, what books have to offer me, even if that's like reading more books from the same authors I tend to like, or books that I've just never put my hands on before. I don't see a purpose right now in my life to reread. So I really enjoyed it to the point that I was like, wow, I really want to re-experience this, and had to listen again. Today I'm probably going to end up reading one of the books that I have on Kindle through Libby. And I think I'm leaning towards Diana Quincy's book, which is Her Night with the Duke, and I'm reading it for the shirtless man on the cover or step back, because for me, this one seems a little bit more interesting than Forbidden by Beverly Jenkins, and I know Forbidden isn't like Beverly Jenkins' like most well-received work. I definitely hear people talk about and enjoy Indigo way more. So, I think I'm going to start with this one because I'm definitely still riding on that, like, great euphoric feeling of reading, like, the madness of Lordy and Mackenzie last night. So, let's see what we could get done today. Other than reading, I basically just have to do a bunch of, like, prep for the beginning of the semester and go through, like, the classes I'm taking and figure out what textbooks I need to buy. Because class starts in like a week and a half, and I just haven't bought any textbooks yet, so I need to figure that out. But other than that, I'll talk to you guys later for a little check-in. Hey everyone, it's been a couple of hours now, and I'm about halfway through Her Night with the Duke, and it's been a really like refreshing read so far, honestly. Even before like going into the book, when I was reading the synopsis, I honestly thought that it was a book about cheating, which I never want to read, especially in romance. Like, it becomes very like frustrating for me. But I found out that like the main character Leela, she is a widow, and decided to read it because it just seemed like the perfect amount of messy. But honestly, like, my feelings are way more involved than I thought that they were gonna be. Leela actually is like of Arabic descent, so we get a lot of her point of view of how she's like navigating the situation because she is like among high society people, and she knows that she's never gonna fully blend in because of the fact that she doesn't look like a traditional English like woman. Like, she doesn't have pale skin, she's more olive tone, she has like really dark like unruly hair, quote unquote, and it's like her trying to like embrace her culture, and it's like been like very, very beautiful to see like how headstrong she is and like how she like does what she wants, especially now after she's a widow and she like doesn't have any attachment to a man. Her specifically, like, she grew up among high society. Like, her father was a Marquess, and her mom, while Arabic, really pushed away from those roots just because she wanted like her children to be able to fully acclimate into high society, because that like was their legacy essentially. So now that like her parents have passed away, her husband has passed away, she's in this position where she can fully embrace that side of her family and get to know them. She's like learned a lot of Arabic, she's like taken a lot of customs in and like does them now traditionally, and it's like really, really nice. You see a lot of the backlash she gets from like people around her, even when she's not actively doing anything in part of her culture, just because of the way that she looks. And it's like definitely like difficult to read through, but like nothing's too like excessive, I would say. It's just like constant jabs. And then on the other hand, our Duke is definitely like a damaged hero in like a very like weird way. His family has like this almost curse on them where every other generation like the family basically just like runs amok. And his older brother was definitely a part of that, but now that he's Duke, he wants to like stray away from that, and he's really really conscious of the fact that they're of the same generation, so people are expecting him to lose. So you see how like that gets in the way of their relationship a lot of the time. Like no matter how open they are with one another and themselves about their feelings, like they're put in a position where they have to put their wants aside for high society's like standards and what they think is right. And that in itself is difficult enough for me. But then on top of that, like Leela's stepdaughter is just like the sweetest girl, to the point that I'm like really like almost anxious trying to figure out like how things are gonna work out for all three of them, because now she's like almost inadvertently in the middle of a love triangle that she did not think she was in. So now I'm like, I want the best for the stepdaughter, I want the best for like both of the main characters, and I don't see how it's gonna like work out right now. I like see a couple of options, but I don't know how it's gonna work out in the long term, because somebody is gonna have to like give something up in some way, or like receive backlash in some way from society. So it's been a ride at the very least. I'm definitely enjoying it though, and I really love that aspect of I just truly don't know what's gonna happen. There's a lot of other things happening as well within like the family and like society and the like group of people that we see, and all of it's like very very interesting, almost like the level of like a mystery to it, and I'm really excited to read the rest, so I'm gonna like check in with you guys later because I need to continue. Okay, hey guys, at this point it's now Sunday. I finished her night with the Duke a couple hours ago. It's like halfway through Sunday or something like that, around like 5 o'clock. And I don't know how to rate this right now. I like really enjoyed like the first half of it, but then the second half almost like dragged out for me. I think that it did not have to be that complicated, even with everything going on, like Elliot's like family curse and Leela's like issues with society because of her like race. It genuinely just did not need to be that difficult. I feel like the last couple of chapters were unnecessary like back and forth between the two of them, and it just really took away from my enjoyment of the book. So I'm stuck kind of rating it like 3.5 to a 4. Outside of that, I think like the character development was amazing. I really enjoyed the romance, so it's like really hard to like try to quantify what I want to rate this as, because like I did have a lot of fun reading it. But I don't think it's a book I'm going to think about again in terms of like the romance aspect, which I do read like historical romance like mostly for the romance, but I love the characters so much on their own that like I wouldn't like rate this low. So have to figure that out. I think I'm going to start an audiobook tonight, do some editing, and just like have dinner. But I'll check in with you guys afterwards because I think I'm going to start The Devil's Daughter by Lisa Kleypas. Hey guys, so it's Monday morning now. I didn't give an update last night with The Devil's Daughter because it was amazing, so I listened to it one go. Honestly, like I think it's like the 5th book in the series or something, and it might be a crossover with one of her other series, but that book alone made me like a Lisa Kleypas fan. Like I will probably go ahead and pick up the rest of the series because it was just like so amazing, very sweet but still funny. I felt like the pacing of it was like incredibly well done, and like unlike her night with the Duke, their back and forth was like pretty short. Like I think they had like 3 or so like back and forth, and it was mostly on like West's end where he felt like he wasn't good enough for Phoebe. But Phoebe's just like this amazing character. She's like very hands-on with her 2 sons from her like first marriage. He's like great with them, and I love a man who is kind to kids. And he made it very clear that he thought that he was unable to be like a good father figure to them, but he's like amazing with them. You can tell he loves them. They like loved him, and it was just like so sweet. I really, really enjoyed it. So I had no update to give because I just did not stop listening to it. I finished it at like 1 in the morning and just went directly to bed. But today I'm going to start the last book, which is Forbidden by Beverly Jenkins, and I have that on ebook. So I'm going to be reading it on my Kindle. Other than that, I'm probably going to be doing some editing of this video. And that'll be the end. I got another 2 books cleared on Libby. One's in an ebook format, and one's an audiobook, and I'm probably going to read them. But I'm not sure if I'm going to read them within the week or after the readathon is over. So I'll keep you guys updated on that. Okay, hey everyone. This is my last check-in for the readathon. I am going to stop at 4 books. I read Forbidden by Beverly Jenkins, and it's probably like a 2.75, 3-star rating for me. The first half, more than the first half, probably like 80% of the book was just like very, very slow. And not a lot happened. There was a lot of talk about like race and slavery, which was expected, but there wasn't like a lot of like overt racism happening because one of the main characters is like passing to be a white man, and people assume and believe that he's white. And even before that, we don't get a lot of like the woman's point of view of her experiencing racism, so it seems like very low stakes from the beginning when it shouldn't have because of the content. And then probably the last 20% of the book, all the racism came out, all the slurs came out. It was like, it wasn't uncomfortable, but because so much of the beginning of the book was just like very calm, even with the stakes heightened and like all of the action happening, it felt like nothing was going on still. Also, I feel like the characters did not know each other well enough to be in love. It didn't feel like a romance to me at all. I was reading the book, and even at some points, I was questioning if they were like family members, because it seems like he states that his mother was like an enslaved African queen, and she said that her grandmother was also an enslaved African queen. But at no point did they have a conversation even like exchanging their mother/grandmother's name. So I was like, are we not going to have a discussion about it? No. It kept on getting mentioned, but there was no further discussion. So I was like, this man doesn't know anything about her life. How is he supposedly in love with her? Even up until like the last chapter, he wasn't aware that her sister was like working as a prostitute. And I'm like, you guys are already engaged to get married. And he just did not know this. Also, understanding like the times and like the time period that we're working within, I get like all of the racism, but there are several Chinese characters present in the book, and none of them have names. One of them ends up passing away later in the book, and we still don't get a name. And it was like very weird and uncomfortable to watch. I would be more comfortable and okay with it if there was like other like figures present in the book that also didn't have names, but the Chinese characters are presented as figures and don't have names, when there are other characters, including like other people of color, who have names but don't have any like speaking roles, aren't largely present in the book. So it was just like very weird and uncomfortable, and I thought that was kind of like not reading the room. Like, if we're discussing racism and we agree that all of the people in color, like, in town are, like, experiencing racism in one form or another, why do they not have names? Especially if one of the people are important enough that they're gonna have several, like, lines of them talking and then pass away, and we don't even get the name afterwards. Like, it was just very confusing to me. I did not enjoy it. I will try another Beverly Jenkins book, especially after, like, reading another book from Lisa Kleypas and, like, really enjoying it. But, like, it was not the best way to end the readathon. And I don't think I'm going to read anymore just because I'm, like, very busy tomorrow. I start back up at, like, my internship and everything. So I'm going to end it here. I hope you guys had, like, a really fun time if you were also doing the readathon. And otherwise, like, happy reading. So I don't know if the two main characters are related, and no one's having the conversation to figure out whether they are or aren't. So I'm, like, slightly concerned. At the beginning, he literally says that his mother was, like, an enslaved African, like, queen. And now she said, my mother said I get my temper from my grandmother. She was sold 12 times during slavery because she never met a slave owner she could abide. She was whipped a lot because of that. It suddenly occurred to Edie that she was talking to a man who may or may not have been a slave owner. Sorry, I probably shouldn't be discussing such a subject with you. And then he goes, no, it's okay. Your grandmother sounds like quite a woman. What else do you know about her? And then she says that she was supposedly an African queen, and he stiffens, but then doesn't ask questions about it. And then later he brings it up again when he's thinking to himself, and he's, like, naked in bed thinking about it, and he starts calling her his, like, little queen and majesty, and it's very weird. And then they discuss how, like, royalty runs in both their families. And look, I'm not saying that the world is small, but I'm saying that he doesn't know where his sister is, and he should be a little bit more concerned. And it would be nice if we just had, like, a 5-minute conversation to figure it out. I'm worried. It's ruining the little bit of romance that there is, because I don't know if they're blood related. Ew.